You know, it's kind of funny when you think about it. One of the very first computer games ever created wasn't born in some futuristic lab with a grand vision for entertainment. Nope, it was created because a guy was just really bored at his corporate job. This is that story.
So, how in the world does that happen? How does one programmer, fighting off boredom in the early 1960s, end up planting the seeds for what would become the entire computer gaming industry? It's a wild story, and it takes us back to a time when computers were, let's be honest, the absolute opposite of fun.
So let's meet our hero. His name is John Burgeson. He starts working at IBM way back in 1957, and it doesn't take him very long to realize, yeah, this isn't exactly a perfect fit. He's this really creative thinker stuck in a world that's all about starched shirts and rigid corporate rules. You've really got to picture the scene here. We're talking 1960. Computers aren't these sleek little things on our desks. They're giant room-sized mainframes, absolute beasts. And they had one job and one job only, serious business, crunching numbers. The idea of using one for fun? That was just ridiculous. It wasn't even on the radar for the people in charge.
And right there, that's the core of our story. On one side, you have the IBM 1620 mainframe, this symbol of pure corporate efficiency. And on the other, you have John Burgeson, a programmer with this incredible tool at his fingertips and a desperate need for a creative outlet. It was just a matter of time before something interesting happened.
So Burgeson is sitting there looking at this incredibly powerful machine, and he's thinking, okay, how can I use this thing to make my life a little less dull? And then it hits him. The answer to his corporate boredom was America's national pastime, baseball.
See, that was the spark. Burgeson was a massive baseball fan, a real fanatic. And he had this light bulb moment where he realized he could translate the rules, the statistics, the whole strategy of the game into a computer program. This wasn't just about killing time anymore. It was about pouring his passion into a really tough and really fascinating technical challenge.
But he knew this was a massive undertaking, way too big for one person. He needed a partner in crime, so to speak. And who better to ask than his own brother, Paul? He managed to rope him into the project, and together they started building this game kind of on the down low.
And let's be super clear. Actually creating this game was no small feat. This was long before user-friendly programming languages. They were working from the ground up, basically speaking the computer's native language, to turn lines of raw code into a functioning simulation of a real baseball game.
And this whole thing didn't happen overnight either. They got started on the code in late 1960. By early 1961, they had a working version of their simulation, which they called BBC V1K. After months of testing and debugging, the final version was officially done on September 11, 1961.
So what made this so revolutionary for its time? I mean, why was this such a big deal? Well, it wasn't just some simple game of chance. No way. They programmed it in raw assembly language and fed it with real-world data, batting averages, RBIs, stats from actual players. You could pick your own team, and then the computer would print a super detailed play-by-play recap on a teletype terminal. For the early 60s, this was an unbelievably deep simulation.
All right, so the game was finished. It was innovative, complex, and most importantly, it was fun. But now Burgeson had to face a new opponent, one that was much tougher than any line of code: IBM management.
What happened next was like a mini drama. First, the program was quietly added to the official IBM software catalog. Success! But then, management got wind of it and had it deleted, calling it a waste of resources. Ouch. But Burgeson didn't just give up. He fought for his creation, he argued its value, and somehow he actually convinced them. The game was put right back in the catalog. His victory was complete. His little baseball game, born from sheer boredom, earned its official place in IBM's software library. And it stayed there for the entire life of the IBM 1620 computer. It was a small but really significant win for creativity.
So why does this one story matter so much in the grand scheme of things? Well, because this small act of creative rebellion ended up having a way bigger impact on the future of computing than anyone could have possibly imagined at the time.
Now, to be clear, this wasn't the absolute first or only fun program ever written. But what made it such a landmark was its sheer scope and completeness. Nothing else at the time really matched the depth and simulation quality of his baseball game, especially in a corporate environment that actively discouraged these kinds of projects. And that really gets to the heart of it. Burgeson's story is the perfect early example of this fundamental truth. He took the existing technology, the IBM 1620, and he fused it with his own creativity and his passion for baseball. That combination, technology plus creativity, is and always has been the engine of the video game industry.
And you have to remember, this wasn't happening in a vacuum. All over the world, programmers were secretly tinkering with games on the side. Burgeson's project wasn't an isolated incident, but it was a powerful proof of concept. It showed what was possible. The industry just needed a spark, and this was one of the very first and brightest.
And that leaves us with a final thought. Back in 1960, a mainframe computer was a serious, boring business tool. John Burgeson saw another potential in it. He saw a ball part. So what about today? What powerful, serious technology that we use every day is just one creative idea away from becoming the next platform for play and entertainment? It's a fascinating question to think about.